Oh my God, it's Monday.
I feel like, for talking about like parenting and stuff, I think I'd love to recap what happened yesterday.
Oh
a little
my
bit.
God, it was so crazy.
Well, we had a speaker come to our son's school to speak about like phones.
Interesting. They got a different topic.
Mine was, he said, this is the exact same things he said.
Okay, because
To the word.
Did they talk about AI? Because they didn't talk about AI with
Oh
us.
yeah, he did tell us all about AI.
Oh yeah, that's what Max took home was AI.
Yeah, that's what Tucker did say. We talked a lot about. And then the one in the back. So we were talking about phones, and they had a day with the kids, and then in the evening we were able to go on and speak to this amazing speaker who we know personally, we've had on our podcast and we love. But one of the funny things that I had to pull out of it was he said, as far as one of the questions was about like, how do you, back in the day, our parents would always be like, you don't know what's happening in the world. You don't read the newspaper. You don't watch the news. Like, you're so unaware of the world, which he's like, it's so different now because they're so aware of everything from like politics to
watching wars in real time.
Wars, even like all this stuff. And he's like, well, it's really important they need to be able to answer to themselves what kind of news and world events I'm actually consuming, because he's like, often they do learn a lot about random topics that actually don't matter, like the random blue whale in the middle of the Arctic. And I was dying because the kids that I had in the car recently had a conversation about astrology and the moon and the planets, and they were giving me all this information, and they were like, don't you know this? And I was like, no, I don't know anything about it. I'm like, how do you guys know all about it? And they're like Reels and TikToks and online talks about these things, and then it searched them. But I have to say, I know that it seemed like it is useless information when there's so many things that they need to learn at this age. But I was really interested in the information they were giving me on this topic that I didn't know.
Hopefully it was right.
Oh, well, that's the other thing, is like, who knows? Because I told someone else, they're like, that's not even true.
Oh yeah, 12-year-olds. You're going to take what they heard, and then what they said, probably very different.
Yes. And I had had my son listen to it in the day, and then I'm like, sorry to the kid in the car. I'm like, you didn't know you were coming for like a Zoom conference call, a webinar, but they sat and they listened to all of it. And my son was saying some of the things, like he would like weigh in, because he's the kind of person who he'll look away, but he is listening to everything. So he really captured a lot from yesterday. And at the end of the school decided to give a challenge of dropping your phone in, because I guess you still get your phones in your locker and stuff.
You have it. They have it in the cafeteria at lunchtime.
Right. So they could put their phones in a thing. And he said in his whole class, only 2 people put their phones in.
My son said because at the end of the day, you have to wait to get it back. So they can't just book it out of there. They have to go pick it up in the office and wait to go do it. So
my son put it in the morning, and he was literally got speedy out.
But did he pick it back up at lunchtime?
I think you get points for like morning and afternoon. At the end, you get a raffle. He's like, to win like Raptors tickets.
I guess only 2 people did it, so he didn't get that. Because my son's like, then you have to go wait in line to get it back at the end of the day. Yeah. And I was like, I get that when you're trying to get out of there, and you have to be like, just going. He'd probably forget it too. Oh my phone.
I know, but I think a lot of them were like, it's not worth it. Like, but I was like, yes, participate. And he's like, I encourage my friend to participate. I'm like, he's like, if not many people are participating, your chances are higher of winning. And I'm like, genius.
I know.
Because I'm all about entering a raffle.
You pass that on to him.
Yes. Can't win if you don't play. 50-50. But it was crazy, because so much of what we've been talking about with our online guide for kids having phones, obviously our school felt was important to share with not only the kids but the parents. I'm curious, were you able to find how many people were registered for it? My son was asking how many parents are on here.
I actually,
I'd be really curious.
I would say, well, here's what is so interesting is I think that I'm asking you as parents, how many of you know what your kids do on the phone? When they're on the phone, what are they doing? Mm-hmm. Do you know what they're doing and what they're watching and what they're consuming and what they're...
And no, most don't.
No, they don't. So you might not even know what they're doing to become a problem. And I also think that I was saying to Natalie, because I don't know if we know how can we know what's
so
a
weird when you
problem?
say I was saying to Natalie. Like,
Because I was like,
is Natalie?
Newt, the skin flu. How do we know it's a problem if they've never not had it to be a? How do we know it's a problem if you have no comparison to what they had before? Because if they've always had it, it's like kind of functioning without glasses. Your functioning may be perfect, and then you put glasses on because you never knew you needed glasses. And maybe you function 10% better, but you didn't know. So maybe it's not
But
an 80% better. Maybe it's a 10% better. So the kid who cries at nighttime, who's like, let's just say they're crying for 30 minutes on the weekend. You think they're stressed about schoolwork. Maybe it's just another piece of the puzzle because now they're overwhelmed about lots of things. It's like, what are they? It's really hard because we'll never know.
But what I take two things. I take, number one, the person who is speaking speaks with
Gumption.
But also so many teens. So sometimes when you speak to a lot of teens, and he's also speaking with parents, but you might take for granted how much you actually comes naturally to you. It's sort of like when they say, like parenting, some people just like question, I don't know what to do. They're asking everybody's advice. It isn't coming naturally to follow the instincts. So when he was saying like, if there's not, like if you don't see like a change in behavior and they're functioning like as like normal kids,
But
like
what's normal if they've always had it?
well, normal would be like they're able to participate with friends, they're able to socialize, they have happiness in their life, they have joy, they're able to participate with the family, they're able to I love like be on a team sport. Like if you're doing all these things, then I would say like you don't have a problem that you need to fix.
I think what we take for granted is knowing the rent in their brain. And I think they don't know the rent in their brain. So what I mean by rent in the brain is like, what is the space that is taken up by, and I like problem, not problem, no problem, lots of problems, whatever the thing is. What is the load that they're doing for when they get 50 notifications? What does that feel like? And I think that there's no, I think problem is vast, because I think some will be like, oh, they're teenagers. Oh, they're so moody. Oh, this is what they're like. I think that there's extremes in behavior. So you're going to have kids who cannot go on social media because they are so impacted by seeing like things on their feed. They're going to be so hurt that they were left out of. So they're going to be devastated. Okay. You're going to have kids that are just feeling that way. They might not tell their parents because they're embarrassed they weren't invited. And it's really important that they were invited. Okay. So you're going to have different levels of problem. Extreme problem, they're not participating. Extreme problem, they're not functioning in life. They're whatever. On the other side, small problems that could accumulate to being what I think we have blind spots as parents right now. And I think our blind spots is I don't know how many parents know what apps do what. And if we know what even the effects could be potentially, I don't think your kid's ever safe or immune, because it's one situation, it's one girlfriend, it's one boyfriend, it's one, you're one kind of thing away. And if you don't know how it operates, it's like as a parent, you're like going through sort of the Rolodex of what could be bothering them when they come home. Let's just say they come home in a mood, or like they're a few days off and you're like, what's going on? Like you go in your Rolodex like this, and they don't always tell you because always they don't know. So you're like this. Right, you're like,
I think about being a teenager too and having those I was consumed with social and everything, and I never talked about it, and there was no time to discuss it. I was obsessed with social, not school, boys, and like my friends, what they were doing, like who's this, who's that, like that's what consumed my brain. It was never school.
So you have like a gateway to, but
never talked about it, never asked how I felt about it.
And I think that when you have but you did have to go home and not have access to it. You would go home and have dinner and not have it like this. Ding. Like you couldn't push a button. Now it's like this. It's like basically what you were consumed with, you could have had at a fucking push of a button and never put it down. Because I think the stats were like kids wish they would go to bed earlier, but they can't because of social media. They wish they could, like what they wish versus what they're doing. So I think that if you look at it as a piece of like, how can we do this better? Not how do we get rid of this? Because if it's not a problem, how can I as a parent help you in this? Because guaranteed there's some negative effects. There's no way it's just all positive. There's not a fucking chance every kid is like.
Said we thought that we had smartphones and we had technology that your kids would be smarter, and they're actually not.
No. So how as parents can we get rid of these blind spots and add it to the puzzle of what might be going on, or how can we help educate them in things that might happen. Like, I don't think any of our kids are versed in relationships on social media where they've been gut wrenched and broken up with and don't know why, which happens to a lot of people. And then they can see that person with a new person all the time, or their best friend, and then break up and they turn off their location. You could, like, just those things that matter, that might not matter at 16, but if you're 12, it might really matter.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I just think that parents don't know the blind spots, and they don't know how to talk about it because they don't know what they are.
No. And I think that's also what is so great about our guide. And what is he saying is, start with at least this.
Well, my favorite fucking thing was
I had two favorites.
When someone submitted a question about, can you take their phone away while they're studying?
He's like, you're the parent.
Yes, of course you can. But that is where we're at.
I swear, I was just talking this morning about somebody that I know who was basically making a potential like family decision and giving the young teenager such a power in the decision. And I was like, they're the parents. Are they really sitting having this negotiation and considering what this teenager's saying? You're the parents.
I think we've forgotten. And I think it's so evident with phones, like the fact that we're so lost, but it's because we don't know. The fact that we're like afraid of our kids being socially isolated, that we're like, well, they got to have that. Dude, they can still text them. If fucking Snapchat's a problem, get them to text. Like, it's not like, well, you know what? It bothers them 60% of the time, but 40% they get to communicate. So you know what? Let's have them suffer for 60%, but just so they can hang out and chat for 40% of the time. I'm like, we're the fucking parents here. We can say, you know what? This does not seem to be serving you. How about we do this? Not like I'm taking this away. I think the whole point is being parents and reasonable, but you can't parent what you don't know. And when I say blind spots, I mean in the past like 2 weeks, what I've opened my mind to learning about the Snapchat world, not just being a texting platform. And I think we do have to realize, like, our guide goes into that. It is not just a texting platform. It is not just, and actually I was texting someone who was part of the webinar, and when they were like, it's how they communicate, I'm like, be aware, it's also the way they watch reels, because there's full on like TikTok on there, because people take their TikToks and post on there, and then their stories. So it's everything in one app. It is not just a texting platform like a WhatsApp. WhatsApp is just a texting platform. DMs, Instagram is just, no, actually it's not just a texting platform.
No.
What's it called?
Only our messaging.
Messaging is a text.
The other thing that the parents put, a lot of my friends have their kids on, is Facebook Messenger.
That's for very little kids.
Oh.
Because you can see everything. Like they'd be probably...
That's what they give them until they get a phone.
They'd probably be under like 10.
Yeah, but they don't get a phone until they're 12.
Yeah, so maybe 12, like 10, 11. Yeah, I would say they're under like... But if you have an iPad, you have a fucking phone. Sorry, people. And I think 80% of people have an iPad. So people who are like, they're not getting a phone, but they have an iPad and a computer. It's the same thing. And I think that this is what the conversations need to be, is when everyone's like, the phone. I'm like, people, it is the iPad, the iPhone. And you know, little Chloe watched it with me last night. And after the end of it, she's like, Mom, I think I have to delete Block Blast, because I can't control. I love, her screen time is like 34 minutes a fucking week, like barely.
Yeah.
She's like, I've got to get rid of that, because she was listening to the conversation.
Yeah. Well, my kid asked me after, is Block Blast one of those things? And I said, no, Block Blast is fine. And also, like, my kids are kind of like, they'll play it every now and then, they're over it. It makes me feel that they're just like bored of it now. But I'm like, no. Block Blast is not a social media platform.
Oh yeah, right. But if they were talking, it would be somewhere they could go in and like have conversations. It would be another place for them to have conversations. And so I just thought, I was like, we're the parents, and I can't believe when I'm listening to the conversations, we're frozen. All, parents are frozen in like, they want permission for their kid to get it, but they actually don't know what their kid's getting. And then they're not like, hey, these are the things that might come up. If it does, let's talk about it and I can help you through it. Like maybe like realize that when you see everyone everywhere on a Friday night and you're not included, if that's going to bother you, maybe don't do that, because you're going to see that every weekend.
Yeah.
So are you going to be okay with that or no?
Yeah.
Like they might be like, yeah. And then if you see them Friday night in a shitty mood because like, got it, let's put our phones away for the week. You know what I mean? But we don't know that because we can't give, we don't know what they're doing.
The other thing is that it's one thing to say, like, because, you know, when you've got a lot of time and you can be around your kids a lot, you can sort of like feel differences. A lot of people in reality don't have that time to feel the differences.
No.
So they don't even know, they can't even feel like, oh, like a problem is arising. I can sense it or not. They can't even, we don't have, life moves really fast.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked, and I was like, I made sure to clarify in my car after, was passive and active screen
usage. Yeah.
It's so, people that don't understand algorithms and how a lot of these apps work don't really know what that means. But it's also really interesting to teach kids that when they're going to pull up their phone or their screen or their computer or their iPad, and they say to themselves, okay, what am I going on my phone for? And whether it's I'm going to check the weather, or I need to research this character,
I need to see the bus route.
I need to see this, all those things. So you're going on to actively do something. Then when you actively get what you went there to be on the phone, all right, I want to socialize with my friends. You know, I've got an hour before I have to be somewhere. I want to socialize with them. When that thing that you went on the phone for is no longer happening, that's when you're passively being served the internet. And that's when you're not in control of what you're about to see. It's such a basic concept, but it's like, it's a really good conversation and an easy thing to say to them. Why are you on right now?
And also, why did you go to it? Yeah. Did you like when you went to go search something, maybe you got distracted, you went off, or are you not liking the feeling of what you're thinking right now and you're going to numb yourself so that you can like, you can just go and like, because that is that's happening where they're going to just not think about the day, or they're bored. Like they don't want to be bored. They don't want to sit there and not do something. So they're like, and I think how many times they're opening apps, and what he did say, and I see this constantly, is refresh, open, close, check the thing. It is the pursuit of what they're looking for and how quickly they're fucking, if you have one, you know, zoom thing, okay, close, open, zip,
at
zip.
the speed that they can consume and like do things it's
sickening.
And it's no wonder. Heaven forbid when you go and watch a television show if they see a commercial, or if they have to sit for like a 2-hour movie.
No,
it's so hard. And like a storyline that's slow, like if the movie doesn't start off or the show doesn't move fast, they're like, this is so boring, because they're so used to being thrown really, really fast things. The other one I really liked, and we've talked about it a lot, and we actually have in the guide things that you can say and talk about, is co-regulation.
Yeah.
I love that word, because it's like, basically like you can't expect a kid to just regulate all by themselves. As a parent, you need to step in, and you also need to help them understand what they're feeling, how to regulate, how to do it. You can't expect them to just know how to do it at all. So it's a partnership.
And also that some kids at certain ages don't actually they don't physically have the words to say how they feel, so they can't, if, let's just say, which is super common, a 10-year-old sees porn, they don't have the words for the shame they felt. They know they should not be on that, they know they should not have seen it, and they sit with the shame, which is not their shame. But because they don't, that's where they're like, be careful with what your kids see when they're younger, because it actually does impact them and the way they perceive that what they've created, the narratives in their head, because it's like they carry it like, oh fuck, shame, it's these feelings. And I think that's what Jake was trying to get at. He's like, when you're consuming TikTok and you're consuming the concepts can be so adult, like,
well, especially now with like
war.
There was, okay, this could be really like naive, but maybe there's always. Was there wars in the news when we were young?
It was there. Of course there was.
They were.
There were lots of wars, but we didn't
know anything about
our parents.
them.
Probably watched the 11 o'clock news, not the 5 o'clock news, because they weren't home.
No.
So there was no news. It was like you got your news, like maybe, I remember watching when CB24 came on, I'd go to my dad's office and it would be on because they would be watching the ticker.
Yep.
And it was like the same, like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that it was the same thing over and over again. But
our
it was
Toronto news, like, also is very like entertainment focused and very cute. Like when Mark watches our Toronto news, he feels like it's like small town news, like the stories
Not
that they
fucking anymore.
no, the stories they'll like go to a school and they'll like ask about. He's like, is this really your news?
Yeah, but we do have the big news that goes on all the time. Yeah, no, there was wars, but we just didn't fucking.
We didn't have access to it. We didn't know. And the brutality of what they get. And now with politics, and parents are all talking about politics all the time.
And like World War III is just like
Kids.
jokes online. World War III is literally like I was on today and it was like just in case basically being like when they nuke us, I'd nuke me first because I don't want to be here. I'm not looking to stay when World War III happens. And I was like, that is something they're going to hear and take as a reality rather than
and we as
rhetoric.
Kids did not know any of that.
Satire.
They know all about so are we going to become a part of America? And if we become a part of America, are we going to get a new flag? And I don't want to say this person's name, but the person's name who got out of jail and is going to be is a terrible influence on males and the world.
He's not out of jail. He's just not. He escaped the country. He's in charges for.
Yeah. The fact that they know all this, but because they have access to all this information.
You know how many followers that person has on X? Take a guess.
500 million?
Oh no! Thank God, 11 million.
Mm-hmm.
11, and he was banned off everything else, and he probably won't be now. And if you don't know who we're talking about, just Google two brothers who just got brought back to America.
And if it is a conversation to have with your kids, because hopefully they don't, but if they do know, they need to know why this person's
oh my God, that's why like you need a whole conversation on that alone, because the amount of boys that are subscribing, that's why he's back here, because the amount of young men who are subscribing to his ideologies is, and if you have a daughter, you'll be like, oh my God.
I also wonder how many of the 11 million are women.
I'd love to see that too.
Yeah, so
there are lots probably.
And I also liked when he said it's not screen time, it's screen use, because a lot of kids are using they can be using their screen for good use.
Oh my God, yeah. For like making PowerPoint presentations about the things they want.
And that's why if you're a parent who doesn't understand the concept, and then they're like, well, your screen time's up. The kid's like, but I mean, it's really good to like give them the screen time so that they can
check in with you.
Also manage their time. So if I only have this amount of time and I know I need to do research on this, and this is how much time I have for social,
I think that the whole point is that, well, also the take home, the massive take home is kids don't like the feelings of excessive online use. They don't like it. I have not met a kid yet who loves the way they feel after excessive like TikTok, Instagrams. They do not like the feeling. That's across the board. That's like no one's like, oh my God, I feel so good consuming other people's shit all day. Said nobody ever. Number one. Number two, kids want boundaries. They want help in managing this. They want to go to sleep, but they actually are just like, oh, one more. We're all guilty of that. Okay. That's number two. Number three, they want to know that you trust them. So having conversations and being collaborative with them is so much more different and will help them come to you. And that's really what co-regulation is about, is when a kid falls down and hurts their knee, that's why they stop and they look at you before they decide if they're going to cry. And that's why parents don't go, because they know their kid's going to cry. But we become parents to teenagers and we become
alarmists. We're alarmists. We're like, oh my God, what did you see online? Take that phone away. What's going on?
Or we freak out if your friends did what, you did what, and they begin to learn, oh shit, I can't go to them with stuff. So
that's such a big one. So many teenagers feel like my parents don't understand, and I could never share this with them because number one, they're going to go and like tell somebody, or because I was honest with them about something I saw online, that I'm going to have that taken away.
Yeah. So I think that what we have to do is go back to co-regulating online, which means, talking to them about like, what does that feel like? And we all need to get better at this, not just them, because I think we're making this a them problem when it's an everybody problem.
It's us too.
I know. And I think that we're just like, you. And they're like, fuck you.
Fuck you. I'm never going to tell you anything. And I'm going to sneak around and get apps that aren't on, that you can't see.
And look at you. Like, look at you.
Yeah.
But me? And so I think we have to talk the talk. I think we have to walk the walk. I think we have to like have basically a reality check of what's happening and stop being like, oh, it'll be someone else's problem to deal with. They're going to get through it, or they're fine. It's not. I don't like when we say if they're not having a problem. you're good because everyone is probably very close. Kids are always on the line of problem, not problem. And you never really know what's accumulating to become a problem. Some of them never go through a problem.
I think people also need to understand the nuance of the word problem. And a lot of parents just don't.
Yeah.
They're never going to get it. So you can't expect that everyone's going to understand it the way that it's being said.
Yeah. And I think that bottom line is problem, no problem. Your kid is a straight A student and on, varsity and doesn't have a phone. You should probably still learn what that world is because one day they will.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have access to it. And if you're not educated in what their friends are talking about and what they're probably doing on their friend's phone, you probably have a problem.
I know,
even though you don't know it.
It's at a basic level. They're like, if a kid never fails and you always fix their problem, then they go into the real world and they fail at something, they think it's the end of the world. If they don't have experience online and then they finally have it and it's so overwhelming and they're at an age where it's everyone else is been able to handle it, manage it, it's been working through it, been having conversations about it. Your kid is going to be really overwhelmed.
Yeah, they are going to be overwhelmed and they won't understand. Well, the whole point of raising kids is to help them understand themselves so that they can learn how to launch and be an adult. But if they don't know, if we're not teaching them their relationships with a phone, relationships with social media, relationships with their teachers, relationships with their friends, we're kind of mirroring to them I'm seeing that when you go on this app, you come off and you seem agitated and angry. You seem frustrated when I'm talking to you and you're on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's telling me that you've got too much coming in at you. I'm not mad at you for it, but just be aware that when that's happening to you, you can't hear me and watch something that's irritating to you. And when I say your name 7 times and then you get mad at me because you hear my name 7 times, realize you haven't communicated back to me. That's the shit this takes, is literally talking out loud what you're seeing, thinking they should just know. But because they don't know, they're in this world. You all know those kids where you're and then they just scream at them, but you're screaming my name, but I've said it 7 times.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And then I'm frustrated and you're frustrated because I've interrupted you and you don't like interruption. And I think that on the basic level, all of us are at a heightened level of input. There's no way we can't be when things are coming at you. Everyone's at a heightened level. So either we have to step away, take a breath, and realize when we're going to have a conversation, we need devices out of our hands so that we can actually have conversations. Because me talking at you and you getting
nothing's happening here.
I imagine the levels of miscommunication are at an all-time high in houses right now because all of us are doing 7 things at once.
Yeah.
I can't think of how calm and rational a house would be with all devices out the window when they walk in the door so that you can how smooth the mornings and the nights would be if I had 1 or 2 who weren't as distracted by because I hear
we are in a different phase in my house and it is fucking crazy.
The mayhem.
We're in a big time wrestling mode.
So they need to get outside.
We need spring. They're only home for 30 minutes, but they know it's only 30 minutes, so they go fucking crazy. They love to, and you know we're in 3 bad phases right now.
Fix your hair.
Number 1 bad phase, wrestling.
Okay,
and they laugh so hard. It's so hard to be mad at them.
Oh, so it's fun.
No, not for me.
Okay.
And something could get hurt, and it could end
something
up mad.
Could somebody
could break. Yeah,
somebody.
Break.
Okay, somebody. So an arm could break.
The farting in my car, and
they need to get out and fart.
I got him to get out and fart yesterday. I said, "You get out and you wiggle until that fart's gone. Don't bring that in my car." And he came in, and it came back in with him. Farting, wrestling, and the third one is, and I don't know. I heard from someone that kids do this. My kids are really into breathing on each other.
Yes. And
saying that they have barn breath.
Yeah.
I thought it was, we're still here. It is constant. And they go, do you smell that from across the table? I am so sick because it's not funny anymore. Maybe in the beginning it's not funny anymore.
Do you laugh when they fart?
No, because I really don't like the smell of farts. I don't mind a fart that
because
is loud.
You loved farts for.
I love fart sounds.
I know.
I don't like fart smells.
I know you got a tricky situation. You just really fucked yourself there. I'm sorry to say, but you really screwed yourself when you promoted it for so long.
I mean, I know some people that can fart really loud that don't smell.
Well, that's not your children.
That is not my children. The farting is, it's just new too. It's just new. And it often doesn't even make a sound. If you're not going to make a loud sound, it's not funny.
You do play it on YouTube. Like,
I love fart sounds.
I know, so they're probably just trying to please you.
They're not trying to please me. They need to go to the bathroom. And you're breathing on each other. What month am I going to be done that, do you think? June? Because it's got to end.
I mean, my favorite thing is
June.
I would tag their schools.
And say?
This is what they do, and then their schools can reshare it on their. Would you be proud of this? I can't believe that. I can't believe one of that. Like, I can't believe there's.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Like, I feel like
I just pull out the camera and act like I'm going to show everybody.
I'm
like, oh, it's on Insta Stories.
Get a Snapchat.
And then he goes, I go, it's on Insta Stories. And he goes, that's illegal.
Oh, yeah. You can't film me without my permission.
You can't film me. And then I love this. That's child pornography.
Oh.
You have all your clothes on. What the fuck are you talking about? Child pornography. I'm like, I think you're mixing up the words.
Do you mean child extortion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm extorting
you. Yes, I am.
Yes.
And you're extorting my bedroom right now.
Yeah. You should tell them, go breathe in your own room.
They don't. They come and breathe and
get a lock on your door. I think it's time for a lock on your door.
Oh.
And then see, you can't have it all the ways. So just handle the breathing. You can put a note on your door with a lock. You can say, no breathing, no farting, no breathing. You're not welcome in my room. How long's it been?
The breathing?
Yeah.
I think it was before Christmas. I think it started in the fall.
Sorry about your life.
The farting's like about a month and a half old.
Yeah.
In my car.
Okay. Summer's coming. Oh, they don't do anything for summer. They're with you all summer. You're screwed.
But maybe by then it'll be over.
Probably not. Just do it at Grammy's house. Hey, Grammy, want to smell my barn breath? Hey, Grammy, listen to this. Like,
so, aren't you embarrassed if you have bad breath?
No.
Why would you want to show anyone you have bad breath?
No, they're excited about it. The boys are gross. Hello?
Boys are so gross. Taylor would never do that.
No.
Boys are gross.
Can you imagine Olivia and Chloe being like, hey, Chloe, Olivia, my barn breath. Hell no. Olivia's like, can I braid your hair? French braid it. And Chloe's like, no. And she's like, it looks so cute. And Chloe's like, I want my hair down. That's what they fight about.
Oh my gosh.
Let me one French braid. And Chloe's like, fine. That's what they fight about.
Taylor's just like, why are they, what is wrong? Always, what is wrong with them?
Oh, she's going to need it. She's going to be real looking forward to the break she gets.
When?
2 days.
Oh, yes.
No boys.
Oh, yes.
Lord, it'll be lovely.
Oh, no hockey hands.
Nothing. It'll be beautiful. Guys, let us know your parenting conundrums, barn breath, breathing and farting. Let us know if you have fighting, barn breath, or farting. That seems, and they're teenagers. So go figure. We're not even
it's
out.
Not getting better.
They're not even kids.
No. And then the sock bin, they whip socks at each other. Who? Now there's socks all over my room.
Do they still steal each other's like lovies and like eat them?
It's eased. That's when you're really mad. Now, also remember they take each other's sheets off the bed. But now that we have these new beds, I'm like, this is not a joke. They're not easy to remake. So we have not removed sheets in a while.
Good.
That's a good one. Because that was really devastating when you go to bed and you don't have any sheets on your bed.
This is a full Boy Mom podcast because my daughters, they fight over hair.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do your hair.
Oh, yeah. Can you come do my hair? Somebody do my hair.
Clearly. That's what they fight over. They don't even really fight.